Hey, thanks for tuning in today. I am really delighted to bring you this weekend rewind to a conversation I had with Kirsty Lewis. Kirsty and I spoke back in 2019 in about March of that year. And ever since then, we've remained virtual friends over Instagram. During Zoom, we had some really great sort of trio conversations with Miriam Hadness. And I'm excited because Kirsty's visiting me in Brisbane. And I'm sure she's coming to Brisbane for other reasons, but we're definitely going to catch up, go for a hike, chew the fat, co-work, all of that. So here's the first chat I had with Kirsty. I thought it was timely to bring this to you, and enjoy the episode. I'll speak to you tomorrow. Our guest today is really passionate about how learning is designed and delivered. She believes that good things happen when you bring like-minded individuals together from the world of training, facilitation, and coaching to learn and to grow. She's also here to support businesses who have a passion and desire to develop their facilitation and training talent internally. Her name is Kirsty Lewis, and she's the founder of the School of Facilitation based in the UK. Kirsty, thanks for joining us today. It's nice and early for you, and it's a bit late in the evening for me.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm very well. Just prior to the show, Kirsty and I were having a bit of a chat about the weather, and she asks me what my backstory was, because we've been following each other on Instagram for a while, and I would love to ask you the question, Kirsty, just so our listeners can get the benefit of what led you down the road that you're in now, running the School of Facilitation. What career pivots did you take?
Yeah, good question. Classic 70s child, parents put it in my head that I should go to university and get a job, which I think a lot of us in our early 40s were encouraged to do through their belief patterns. So I went to uni, had a fine time, and then I joined a brewing company called Bass Brewers. And from there I went to Guinness, and from Guinness it morphed to a company called Diageo. And many of us know the Diageo brands: Guinness, Smirnoff, Baileys, Gordon's Gin, Tanqueray, Bundy in Australia. And I had a great time in sales roles there. I never wanted to be a salesperson. I ended up in a sales role, but realized it was about relationships, so that worked for me. And then there was this dream. So one pivot moment was coming to Australia for a friend's wedding. And I pitched to my boss that I'd like to take a sabbatical for 3 months so that I could travel around Australia. So that was a pivot moment. HR then said, can you take 6 months? In that time, as is the case in most businesses, there was a reorg. So I was out of role, but they didn't make me redundant, thankfully. So I came back and I actually got my dream job that I'd already identified at the business, which was a sales capability manager for the global team. And basically, I got to become the custodian of Diageo's way of selling for 2.5 years with a very small team at a global level. And what that meant was I had the privilege of going to work in countries, emerging markets like China and India and some of the African markets, to work with the sales directors to help them evolve their sales teams, basically. So everything from their sales strategy, their sales planning, the capability of their sales team to physically sell and have conversations. And that's where I first discovered and was introduced to this concept of training, facilitating, and coaching, and being on my feet at the front of a room, conducting a group of predominantly men and some women in this learning experience. And so that was the sort of second pivotal moment. So the first one was traveling and being made redundant. The second one was then landing this dream job. And then the next pivotal moment was a friend invited me to a workshop that they were testing in London, and it was based on creating great outcomes in your life. And I remember it really clearly. It was April, I think it was like April the 7th or the 9th, 2007. And I wrote an outcome that it's April 2009, and I'm an NLP coach and facilitator earning £5,000 a month. And I worked on this, and I wrote it really facetiously, Leanne. I wrote it like real tongue in cheek. But by the end of the day, I was like, oh my God, I want to do this. Actually, this really resonates with me. And I cycled home, and I actually rang a friend who was Australian living in London at the time, Simone, and I rang her and I said, mate, I think I want to leave Diageo. And like, you didn't really utter those words at Diageo at that time. She was like, what? Why? And I said, I think I want to go full time as a facilitator and a coach. And she said, what do you do? I said, I don't know. So this was April 2007. So the rest of that summer, I literally spoke to so many different people about my plan. Clearly not people in Diageo. Well, some people, but it wasn't the done thing at that point to admit you were on the wrong career path. And I basically made an exit plan and then resigned in the October. Worked out my notice. My last business trip was Australia, bizarrely enough, to Sydney. Delivered a massive project and then left. And I guess that's the big bit about leaving corporate life. But it was amazing. Yeah, the one time in my life I actually planned something.
Yeah, and good on you for planning your career. And there's some real power in writing things down, I think. Even things that sound a bit silly, and you put it down and you think, yeah, this is it. Like you said, you were quite facetious. You thought writing that down and thinking boldly, just to even get the guts to write it down is a big step. And you're not the first person this week that's mentioned NLP to me. I was talking to someone that said that NLP's really it changed their life. They went to a 5-day course and then went to Vegas and did a master course. And was that the course that you were talking about, that self-development? Was it NLP?
A few colleagues prior to me had gone through some NLP practitioner courses here in the UK in the Diageo team, and they said, Kirst, I think you should do this. It's probably something that's right up your street. And because of what you learn, it really does support you as a facilitator and a trainer in your own personal growth and development. So I went on the practitioner, and again, it was one of those moments where pennies dropped from heaven. I was like, oh, I get why I can do certain things. Like it gave me a language. It gave me reference points for some of my behavior, good and bad, I'd like to say. It really helped me to start to sort my shit out, because I hadn't to that point had any quality code. And through the workshop of learning about NLP, you're practicing all the time, the different skills and behaviors. So by default, you're sorting your stuff out. You're sorting out your baggage. That journey of a year and a half of going through my practitioner, my master practitioner, just was definitely the start point.
And that's what really stood out for me when I was looking at your biography on your website, was that you do mention that it's important to look after ourselves physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. Yeah. Not many people call that out in their own bio, but you're like, yeah, this is what I stand for, and you've got to look after yourself first. What do you think the value is of starting with ourselves first?
Great question. I do bang on about looking after ourselves first. And the reason for that is we, as facilitators and trainers and coaches, we give so much of ourselves when we're working with our clients, whether it's one-on-one or in a group. And I am sure all of your listeners will have had a time when you've walked away at the end of the day. You're really elated with what you've done, but you're knackered.
Oh, yeah.
Or you just don't feel 100%, or you're off kilter. And it's because you've been giving your energy to others. So I then think we need to be doing things to help us, immediately after that, restore our energy. But even before we go into a workshop, a meeting, a retreat, we need to be building up our energy and giving ourselves the best head start. And I guess you make a good point, did I learn this when I was at Diageo? And retrospectively, I've learned it. So it's a drinks company. I partied hard. I played field hockey every weekend, and if any of your listeners know about hockey, we party hard too as a team after the event. I was burning candles at both ends, still trying to be fit, eating the wrong stuff because I was sat on an aeroplane, jet lagged, and probably I look back now and I can see it was just an absolute car crash. Emotionally, I was unhappy. I reread my diary recently from that period, and God, I was an unhappy sausage. And yeah, it was all a bit of shit, really. But I was early 30s and knew no different, and thought that was the way life was meant to be. So as I've grown as a trainer and a facilitator and a coach, I know life doesn't have to be shit. It doesn't have to be burning candles at both ends. You can choose great clients. You can choose the clients to work with, and you can choose to work with clients that are aligned to your values. I've learned the power. I love sleeping. Oh my God.
Me too.
My friends laugh at me.
I love it.
I went to bed at 8:30 last night and read for an hour and a half, and then just turned my light out at 10, woke up at 6. I love sleeping, and we need sleep because it's a regeneration. Water, eating the right stuff, movement. And then the bit I'm learning more and more about is stillness and silence. But I'm a complete extrovert, so that is my stretch in my learning is silence and meditation, slowing down, and being cool with that. And then the other thing, the spiritual piece, is just trusting your instincts and trusting your gut. That's what spirituality means for me there, and trusting that the universe has got a bit of a plan for you, and it is going to be okay. Yeah, so that's my ramble on keeping yourself in shape as a facilitator and trainer. I've got loads of other anecdotes, but I just think if you don't look after yourself, Leanne, no one else is going to. And if you really want this to be your career, you have to be focused on yourself first. And some people would say, well, that's selfish. I think it's about self-care, because you're no use to your clients if you're running on 70%.
Yeah, that's right. And I guess when you were back with the drinks company, that was the culture, I'd imagine, the work hard, play hard mentality. So you wouldn't have, because everyone else was doing it, you were just fitting in and that was the norm?
Absolutely. And also it was an alpha male culture as well. And there's enough being written about that now. And, you know, you fitted in. I'm 6 foot, I'm a hockey player. I adapted to the environment to be accepted.
Okay, let's talk about then, I like that you talked about not only recovering after a workshop. I ran a workshop yesterday and my feet were killing me last night, and I'm going to invest in some new shoes. But the part that you spoke about beforehand, about getting in the right headspace, what does that look like for you? Yeah. Let's say the night before or the day of a workshop. What gets you into that zone? Great question.
Drinking lots of water, at least 24 hours before. No alcohol. Eating a really balanced diet. So I'm all for carbs. I would never cut them out, but everything's in balance. Exercise. So I really enjoy any form of exercise: running, cycling, yoga, weights. So I think some form of exercise the day before is all really helpful, and a good night's sleep. If the possibility of if you're at a hotel or a location and you can arrive the night before and even set up the night before, I always think that's a bonus, because it just alleviates some of that morning prep and travel. And then on the day, I have learned I rarely use PowerPoint anymore, so I have a lot of flip charts and I'm really comfortable with that. So I prep them before I even get there. So there might be a few I do on the day. So I arrive in the room a good hour before the client so that I can set up, and I put on my music. That's the first thing I do. So I have a playlist I've actually had probably, oh my gosh, about 8 years, and I just build on it. But it's got all songs that I really like, that make me really happy and ground me. So, and some of you guys will know about anchoring. So when I hear these songs, it really grounds me, and it's like, okay, Kirst, we're in facilitator mode. So that's the first thing. I go around, if they've closed all the bloody curtains, I go around and open all the curtains and blinds to let some sunlight in.
There is no sunlight in the UK.
Yeah, we do have it. And we just need natural light in the room, because we're not moles, are we? So no. We operate quite brilliantly with daylight. And then often, and people will see this on my Instagram account, I'm often rearranging furniture in meeting rooms because it drives me nuts. I'm a furniture removal lady. So I'm either collapsing tables and just getting rid of them and just putting chairs into a big circle, or trying to sort of push them all to one side and stack them up. The other thing I do, so that's the physical stuff, like physically set the environment so it works. I guess a bit of the spiritual bit. I now carry with me white sage, and I light some white. I sort of ignore all the health and safety that a fire alarm's going to go off, but I light some white sage and I smudge the room, and it just clears the energy. And if you think about the number of people that pass through those different meeting rooms, it's good to just reset the energy. So I just hold an intention that we're going to have a really positive day and to bring into the space what's needed. So I just walk clockwise around the room, smudging the room, and it smells fantastic.
Wow, that's brilliant. You're the first person that's ever mentioned that. as a
There's
technique
a
to
few
get
of
the
us
room
who do
ready.
it,
Yeah.
but it's lovely and it smells amazing. If it's a work, there was a time I was running lots of sales workshops, and therefore it was very repetitive content for me. And one of my really good teachers taught me to hold a belief of first time every time. And what he meant by that was, you've got to remember, this is the first time the people coming to this event have ever seen this content. Just because you've delivered it hundreds of times doesn't mean to say you've got to deliver it in a, oh, here we go again kind of way. So having that belief of first time every time, especially if it's something that I know really well, or if it's something that I don't know, I sometimes just sit for a couple of minutes and just take a few deep breaths and just go, okay, you can be what you need them to be today, and try and clear myself of any preconceived notions and ideas of what's going to happen. And because of the design of the session as well, often it's really clear what the outcomes are that the client's requested. And I've been taught, and I teach people to hold their outcomes lightly. So yeah, you know where you'd like to be by the end of the day, but don't squeeze them so tightly that you restrict yourself with possibility.
And how do you remove yourself from and just tread lightly with getting to the outcome? What are some ways of doing that?
So I guess, so it's really funny, corporates are still in that space of the logical, rational mind, and therefore everything needs to be written down on sheets of paper, and agendas need to be really clearly seen for some people. I have shifted away from that, and I draw the agenda now for them and take a photograph, which sends some of them into a spiral, but I'm just like, that's the way I work. And they're like, oh, okay. So we walk through a drawing. And I'm really clear with them. I will get them to their point that they're wishing to get to and ask them to trust me that we're going to get there. I guess in the past, I was always given, as you are in corporates, if you're delivering learning that's sort of universal across that business, everyone has agendas and facilitator guides. And I get that you need those. What I've also learnt to do is, say, sometimes you need to spend more time in certain areas where there's energy or where there's a need or where you notice that need when you're working with a group. And also to be able to, as you use that word, pivot and change direction as you're sensing into the group. So trusting your gut instinct and saying, right, actually, diving into the next exercise that we'd put on the agenda actually won't take us to where we need to get to next. And my suggestion is we go, sharp right and do something very different. And I think that comes with time and experience, because there is absolutely no way I would have done that 12 years ago, because I wouldn't have had the language, the tools, necessarily the knowledge either, and probably a belief that I had permission to do that.
Yeah, right. The belief. So do you think that you kind of need to go through the trenches, get those years of experience up before, or is there like a magic pill that we can take and we can read a book and go, this is what I need to do. Now I know I can sense what people are doing. What is it, just the time on your feet that you need? What is it?
I do think there is something about time on your feet and practice, but please do it with feedback and a feedback loop, because honestly, I have seen people who tell me they've been trainers and facilitators for like tens of years, and I see them on their feet and I'm just like, oh my God, language patterns, or how are you getting people connected? And it's okay. It's not brilliant. So you can have as many hours on your feet as you want to, but what I think you need is hours on your feet with someone coaching you, giving you some really good quality feedback that you're prepared to listen to. I think all of us as facilitators and trainers need to be investing in our own growth and development, and therefore every year putting time aside, whether that's to go deeper in our field of knowledge or to go deeper into practices that allow you to expand yourself. And that means like expanding your capacity for intuition, using your energy, like using more than your head and going with that gut instinct. And therefore practices like meditation and yoga and silent retreats, systemic constellation is a big piece that I've been learning about, and I find super powerful. So systemic constellation work.
So I've never. What is that systemic constellation?
Oh my gosh, that's a whole other conversation. We should get some others on board for that conversation. Yeah, we should do that. It is. Oh, I can never summarize it in one word. I think it's magical. Mm-hmm. It's working with energy in the room, some basic principles of human nature to help us look at what is and what is happening in a person system, a business system, the system of a team.
That sounds really fascinating.
There's a lot.
Yeah.
It is fascinating. I'll send you some links, but it is amazing. It's really useful. It's more than useful. It can be transformational for people. It just helps them. When you don't have words to describe what is going on for you, it's a way of expressing what you're noticing from an energetic perspective.
Oh, right. Wow, that sounds really... Maybe the best facilitators do it, but they don't really know that it's called this. Some people...
Yes.
Yeah.
And also, by going through the learning, you suddenly start to connect a lot of dots to a bigger picture.
Oh, wow.
Energy.
I am hopping onto Google straight after this conversation. I like that you said that, I guess when you talk about facilitators, and it's more about, it's more than just using your head. And you've kind of even demonstrated that through the conversation where you're even picking up on things like scent by using sage and clearing out the energy in rooms. So I really like that you're taking, it's not a logical thing. What I picked up from your website that I've noticed again was with the words that you used and how you differentiated between the word workshop and the word gathering. Can you show the listeners the intention behind that?
I loved it that you put that and noticed that. So a workshop for me is, do you know what? I'll be brutally honest. So let me describe what they both are. So the workshop is a day event where facilitators and trainers come together, and they're either learning maybe how to design flip charts, or it's about how do you design learning, or it's practicing their delivery. And then the gatherings are shorter 2.5 hour sessions where we come together quarterly face to face as facilitators, trainers and coaches to connect, share and learn as facilitators, trainers and coaches. And it's a space that I hold for other people just to come and be and to find their buddies and to meet people and to basically either explore different elements of facilitation and training or to share some learnings. We have a Christmas party every year. So the gatherings are shorter. And I was looking for a word to describe it. I didn't want to go, come to the facilitator meetup.
Oh, yes.
Or
yes.
Come to our breakfast meeting. It was so boring. And just the word gathering appealed to me. And when you look up what gathering means, it's a coming together. Actually, I've got a very good book I can recommend called The Art of Gathering by Priya Parker.
So a previous guest on the show, Steph Clark, also from the UK. It's she loves that's like her number one recommendation. She sent it to me. What a brilliant book that is. Yeah, it's literally in front of me, and it just says gathering, the conscious bringing together of people for a reason. And I guess when I saw her words, I was like, yeah, I'm consciously bringing together these facilitators and trainers and coaches so that we can learn from one another, connect with our gang, connect with people who get us, so you don't have to sit there and try and explain what you do. Or if you're having a bad day with a client, they'll just sit there and go, yeah, I get you. I understand. Yeah, that's the difference. I love it. Yeah, well done on framing them in two separate ways. I think that's excellent. I'd love to hear a bit more about the School of Facilitation. And when people come and they enroll and you talk to them and hear about their problems, what they want to get better at, do you find sort of any commonalities with people that are new to facilitating, that are first-time facilitators? What do you think are their major struggles?
So I think it goes into two different areas. One is the actual doing of facilitating or training, and the other is running a business. So in terms of the actual facilitation practice, sometimes it's just a belief in self. Can I actually do this? Having ideas on how to design an event or a learning, and where to find ideas on how to design, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
And then when it comes to the whole thing of designing, there's many different sort of pitfalls that people find themselves falling into, like trying to do too much. How do you please the client? And sometimes it's just the not knowing of what they don't know. So I just recommend to a lot of first-time facilitators, please don't be afraid to invest in your own development, especially in the early years, whether that's working with a coach or choosing a particular line of practice just to help you evolve and grow. And there's so many free tools out there now, or free places to get ideas. I just encourage that. And then the second part was actually how to run the business of being a facilitator and a trainer or a coach. And one of the most common things is people knowing their self-worth and their value and the value to the client. And I come from a sales background, so this is where I am glad I learned some basics. But just price yourself and acknowledge that you are really good at what you do, and therefore it's okay to stand in your value and say, I am worth £2,000 a day, £2,500 a day, whatever the number is that you can actually utter. You've got to be able to say the number out aloud, and there's many different ways you can identify what your self-worth is. But the first thing you can start to do is like look at the number of years of experience you've had, if you've got some qualifications, or if you've got a particular space that you've learnt in, the number of years that you've worked, and all that's gone before, because that's what's setting you up for the success. So I think that's one of the big things, is having that conversation about self-worth and knowing where to place yourself in the market.
Yeah, and I think it's really great that you do have that background in sales, as well as with your NLP experience and facilitation. You're the perfect person for people to come to when they have those problems. And I've recently, as you know, left corporate, so for 4 weeks. And yeah, I'm struggling. I'm writing proposals and thinking, oh, is that too much? But I think you do need to get past the numbers and really need to communicate the value that you're bringing, because then it's completely worth it. So that's really great advice. And I like that you've also given ways of listeners to start quantifying the value through experience, through the accreditations they may have. That's really valuable. So when you, if you are talking to a first-time facilitator, I don't know, do you have some advice that you could give someone that's starting out this journey? Let's just say that they're not starting a business, but they're a subject matter expert, so they might be technically brilliant, and now they're asked to share their knowledge with others. What advice could you give them?
Okay, 3 things they can do. Ditch the PowerPoint. Set up at the very beginning why are they there, and why is this important to the audience, and what will the audience learn? And then have lots of different exercises that pull people, the adults, into the learning experience, and let the adults experience what they want to talk about for themselves, versus the trainer or the facilitator feeling they've got to stand there and give a lecture or a seminar, which is a push.
I mean, I agree with all those points. I'm still a little bit attached to my PowerPoint, but I am working on it after having conversations with lots of facilitators around that topic and being comfortable in the room and mixing it up. But point number 3 really resonates. And if you can create an experience where they feel it, it's much more powerful than you telling them about how you should feel when this happens. So yeah, that's beautiful. Hey, Kirsty, if listeners want to contact you, find out more about the School of Facilitation and the work that you do and how you can support them, where can they find you?
Website, www.schooloffacilitation.com. So have a really good nose around there. There's a big section of free resources, ebooks, webinars that you can watch. You can join our newsletter, or come and find me on LinkedIn and also Instagram. I love playing on Instagram. So it's School of Facilitation, or search my name, Kirsty Lewis. But yeah, come and follow us on Instagram, because I do quite enjoy that.
Yeah, and I do follow you on Instagram and I've seen a few of your videos. Well done. But can I just say, it's so good that there's people like you. I think we're both driven by the same thing of stamping out just really ordinary workshops and really lifting that skill. So the more people that are on this warpath and mission, the better. So it's so great I've followed you for a while. It's really great to talk to you and hear your perspective, and love some of the new things that you've exposed me to as part of this conversation. So like I said, is it systemic constellations? I think. Yeah. Well, we'll have to do a follow-up episode on that someday.
Cool.
Thanks again, Kirsty.
Thank you. Cheers, Leanne.
Thanks so much for tuning in to First Time Facilitator. If you like the episode, please share it with your mates or subscribe to the podcast feed in iTunes. Till next time.